Hey guys, so yesterday when you went through the worksheet 6.4 practice A, you did some graphing and looked at some tables and we explored what an exponential function was. And when you were graphing those, you would just find a couple points by plugging those numbers in, a couple numbers in for x, and then you would be able to graph your graph and just sketch a graph. Now that takes a lot of time, and I think that that is important to know where those graphs come from, and when you see a function, have an idea of what the graph should look like. But realistically, every time we need to graph an exponential, we are not going to try to plug in a couple points and take the time to go through that whole process. So if you were in person, I would show you how to use the calculators that the school has and plug an equation into our y equals and do all of that. But since you guys are virtual, I'm going to show you an easy way that we can plug these things into our iPad. So if we go to the app Good Grapher and go to the 2D grapher, you can see I already have a line in here. But what you can do, and I'll turn that off, is hit the three dots up here, the plus sign, and don't worry about these bottom ones. We just want the y of x right up here. Now we can plug our equation in. So if it was maybe negative 2, 4 to the x, we use the little up arrow right there for our exponent, just like you would if you're typing it into a calculator. It has that same symbol. But if we wanted to plug that into our calculator, we'd go ahead and do that, hit save down here at the bottom, and then we would see there's our graph. Now I don't want to look at that one right now. I have 3 of them that I already plugged in, and they're 3 from the back sheet of 6.4. Those are the 3 graphs for number 9, 10, and 11. And I just want to show you, because I know you already graphed them once, and I just want to show you on this graph a few different things about those. So if we look at, first off, 5 to the x. Now we notice that there's not a number in front of the 5, right? It's just 5 to the x. So we know that 5 is our common difference, but what isn't as noticeable is that our y-intercept is just 1. So even though they don't write it up there, they don't write y equals 1 times 5 to the x. That is our our y-intercept, so that's important to pay attention to. The other thing that I want to point out on this graph is that no matter how far we go, it never will cross the y-axis. That we could keep going and going and going, but it will never cross the y-axis and break into those negatives. And every time it'll get closer and closer and closer, but it will never touch. So it's important. We would call the y-axis in this case an asymptote, and it's important to have an idea of what our asymptotes are. Now if we were to change things just a little bit and make this 5 to the x, I'll put that in parentheses, plus 3, then that plus 3 on the end changes where our asymptote is at. Now our asymptote is at 3, and it will never cross. It'll get close and closer and closer and closer, but it will not cross 3. So again, I'm showing you how to plug these into your Good Grapher, but still when we look at 5 to the yx, 5 to the x plus 3, we should know our asymptote is 3, and that will never cross 3, so that helps tell us where our y-intercept would be. Now last one. This one's going in the negative direction. We can see from our equation up there, y equals negative 2 to the x. Now, again, that doesn't have a -1 in front of the 2 to talk about our asymptote. It just assumes that that 1 in front, and since there's a negative sign, it's negative, so that's where our asymptote is, and then the 2 is still our common factor. So that negative sign out front just flips things over for us. But okay, so that's all that I wanted to look at, is just as you're going through these, I mean, we spent the first day on how we plug these in and find them by hand, but now moving forward, I might expect you to find some points here and there, and I want you to be able to plug a couple points in if you need to quickly sketch a graph. But moving forward, there's a yawn. Moving forward, you are able to double check your graph or to get an idea of your graph by looking and using one of these graphing calculators. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you. If we hit this little box that has the X and Y in it, then we can look at our table. So let's say we want our table to start at -10, and the step just means it's going up by 1 every time, and it's going all the way up to 100. Our table will show us all the values. Here's our X's on the left-hand side, Y's on the right-hand side, all the values in our graph, or all the values that we want to see at least. And this can be really helpful because if they ask for the y-intercept and we don't want to plug 0 in for x, then we can just look at our table and we can see where x equals 0 at the top, where x equals 0, then our y value has to be our y-intercept. It is our y-intercept. So we can see without even plugging any numbers in that our y-intercept is 0, -1. Now with these, our y-intercept is right out in front. So hopefully we're able to recognize that anyway, but if we ever want to double check, we can plug our equation in to Good Grapher. Again, hit that table, it'll say build table up there, and we can check it out. So, all right, that is it for today. If you have any questions, make sure that you let me know. Otherwise, have an awesome